Hey, what's up, everybody? Welcome to our 2021 recap, our last show of the year. Nitra, how you feeling about everything?
I'm feeling good, and I'm excited about 2022 and excited to be able to go through, all of what we've done today.
Yeah, we did a lot.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just been a lot of, we're still going through so many changes. We're still adjusting. There's a lot of people who are just tired and frustrated, and they're just ready to throw the mask into the fire amongst everything, right? But, through everything, we have to keep going. We have to have solutions and goals and adjust as much as we can so we can get the most out of everything. So we had a lot of great episodes this season, right? And so, but a lot, right? So it was hard to pinpoint one specific thing. So we're just going to tackle the issues that you guys always ask us questions about. And that seems to resonate with a lot of folks. In our first episode that was aired September 16, 2021, and this was the Rubber Band About to Pop stress episode. And it was about stress management, right? A couple of the topics that we addressed and came up was how stress can affect your sex drive, stress and impact on the body, weight gain as a result of stress, weight loss as a result of stress, what type of stress is good stress, chronic stress and its results. So those were all the things that we talked about in that episode. But what I really want to pull out was, what are immediate solutions that we can implement to manage stress?
Yeah, it's so funny because this one I know is going to come up again toward the end when we think about how everything collides together, because that stress was the main reason for so many people having so many issues when we talk about life in their 40s or 50s and everything colliding together. So this is a great one. And when we think about what are some immediate things to do, oftentimes people look at it and think too complicated. They want it to be this big production, like, I'm not sure what to do. How can I make this be different? But the fact is, we got to start with just simple things. Number one, simple movement. Just go for a walk every day. That's something every single person can do very easily. Just get up out of your chair, whether it's so many conference calls, whether it's, gosh, you know what, I've taken care of the kids, or I just don't have the time to exercise. Everybody can go take the walk. Just go walking every day. It's so underrated, but it will do wonders for your mind and your body. That's number one. Number two, drink more water. That is a very easy way to de-stress the body and help you start to look at things honestly a little clearer. Because once you start walking and drinking more water, you're already well into some of really turning your health around, and you don't want to go back the other way. So just do that. And then number three, sleep. So many of you have written us about either you don't sleep enough or you're waking up still groggy after you slept for 8 hours. You're still tired. But having a good sleep ritual, being able to shut it down. What are the things that you know that you're doing in the evening, whether you're watching too much TV, on too much social media, you don't turn your phone off. Maybe you don't take a soothing shower or sit in the bathtub, drink a tea, drink some type of tea, calming tea that you enjoy, but find a good sleep pattern. Those three things will help you start to pull that stress in line very quickly and in a very non-committal type of way that you don't have to think too hard about.
Awesome. So what foods can we eat to bring inflammation down as a result of stress? And you and I we spent a lot of time here. Right? One of the areas that I struggled with personally, we had to figure out how to help me manage stress. Remember, I would put on 3 to 5 pounds just from inflammation in 1 week. It was crazy how my body would just go left. So I was one of those people that gained weight as a result of stress. And check this out, guys. It wasn't because I wasn't eating. It was because my body was inflamed. And so that's how it responded to stress. So, that's another good point, or another good thing to discuss, Nitra. is that the weight gain is not necessarily from food or lack of food, but rather just from inflammation. So what are some foods that we can eat that will help with that?
In general, right? There's so many foods that work for some and don't work for others. But in general, when people start to eat a little more fruit, that starts to help the process. And I honestly think, again, keeping it very simple, start to eat fruit, because so many people have taken it out of their diet, whether it be myths about carbs, whether it be you think fruit spoils too quickly. So many people are looking at what we call that dirty dozen list. It's a list of, fruits and vegetables that have too many pesticides. So they're not eating them in the same way. And you can choose frozen or fresh, but start to eat fruit. Very simple ones that you can go to: pineapples, any type of berry, right? Pineapples, any type of berry, papaya, squeeze lemon in your water, squeeze lemon in your smoothie if that's what you enjoy. Kiwi, those are big ones that you can just do very easily to help start to bring some of that inflammation down. Also, oatmeal. That's an interesting one for some. And again, some people that may not work, but oatmeal is going to help you get things out of the body. And that's how we're going to get some inflammation down when we start to think about food, because it's fiber. It's going to help push things out. And that's where we'll be able to get a lot of inflammation off the body. And I'm going to jump back. Something that I didn't say, and I have to say it. Y'all know I can't have an episode without saying it. We got to really manage this alcohol consumption. We got to manage it. And this is twofold. It's in the stress and the inflammation. We got to manage it. And so many people want to fight that one. You got to manage alcohol consumption because it's nothing but inflammatory.
Correct.
So it's really something to consider. And then also adding a lot more fish into the diet will help the body start to deflame itself. A lot of omegas, because we need that brain power. We need that blood to start circulating. And then also beets. Beets is a great way to help the body start to deflame itself as well. It's something a lot of people don't necessarily enjoy.
I love beets.
Right? But most people don't want to eat them, but you can definitely juice them, and you can get purple or orange. And they do taste distinctly very different, but they still have the same benefits. So those are some quick and easy ways that you can just start to deflame that are super easy, and almost anybody can use those.
Yeah, the alcohol thing, I want to touch on that real quick. You'll hear us keep harping on that because we are at the age where we got a little bit more change in our pocket. Life is colliding, and we'll get to that too. And the easy thing to do is just go to the bar, right? Is go just take a shot. And I am someone that was drinking pretty heavily at the beginning of my journey. And along the way, once I finally got to the point where I completely stopped drinking, that's when my body just was the ultimate shift. And even when I'm stressed and I have a very stressful week, this is one of the things you taught me, Nitra, was and listen, guys, I wanted to drink, but I went to the refrigerator and I got my juice, which was made of pineapple, cucumber, fennel, ginger, and a few other ingredients. And I drank that instead and took a couple deep breaths, and my stress and then I was able to focus. I had energy and I was able to keep going. So that alcohol thing is big. And I know it's just like, there's no way I can do it, but yes, you can. I mean, I finally got into the space where it tastes kind of gross sometimes, depending. I know. I'm like, I don't know if I want this. There's some that I do still like to take a shot of. But that is really literally it, a shot. And then I'm done, because I literally can see, even if it's a little shot, I can almost immediately see my body change because it's that sensitive. But moving on. So how can we identify triggers? Like triggers was one of those big things. So this is a great segue, right? Like triggers was one of those big things in this episode that we talked about. One of the things I remember distinctly was when you spoke about being in the meetings and like it's stressful, or you're presenting or something happens and you're triggered, like every Monday at 9:00, you're triggered by this incoming meeting. So let's touch on that a little bit.
Yes. And it's so important that people pay attention to what you're doing, when it's happening, and don't ignore it, because the stress triggers turn into things that you may not pay attention to that are really serious for your health. So if it's a certain person that you talk to on a regular basis, maybe it's a certain meeting that you always have, maybe it's your job itself, maybe it's a family member, and these things are triggering some very strange emotions, or they trigger a large amount of stress, you really do need to pay attention to them so you can figure out how to mitigate the symptoms or mitigate the larger concern. But once it's there, that's when we have to pay attention, because those triggers turn into headaches, jittery eyes, the inability to see clearly, the inability to form your thoughts clearly, the constant, lethargy. All of a sudden, you may find that you're even extra thirsty. I think that one can really throw people. You be very thirsty, or you constantly have stomach issues, constant stomach issues. For a lot of people, have a lot to do with how they feel and what's happening in their life, and not so much about the food. So when we can figure out what's bothering your mind, oftentimes some of those stomach issues can go away. Sleeping and you have restless leg syndrome, constant pain down your legs, cramping through your fingers. These are things that tell you that, hey, maybe something's going on. I'm going to go ahead and say this one too. When you are so super stressed and you're not drinking enough water, right? These signs, urine that is very discolored. These are things that are telling you, hey, wait a minute. I need to pull back. I need to do something very different. Your breath smells different. These are things that are telling you something is happening to you, but you're not paying attention. And those can really turn into a lot more serious concerns.
Triggers. We are at the age, guys, where it's not okay.
Those can really
it's never okay to ignore any kind of sign or trigger, right? But we're definitely at the age where anything shifts, you need to go get that checked out. Okay. All right. All right. So moving on to the next episode, which was aired September 30th, where we talked about the immunity response and everything, once you get sick with COVID, post-COVID, pre-COVID, and how can we really insulate ourselves? And the two key points we discussed was to eat and to move. And then the alcohol played a part in that as well. So the alcohol is a continuing story across the board, right? It's like it really needs to be like in the middle of the paper with a circle and then draw all the connecting points to it, right? So the questions that was asked during that episode, and the one that stuck out to me again was, how do we continue to protect ourselves in a post-COVID, continuing COVID environment? Right. And then we broke it down a little bit further when we discussed the eat part, was like foods to boost our immune systems. How do you help fight once you are sick? What do you eat when you are sick? And then what do you continue to eat when you're recovering from COVID? Because it's one thing to come through. What's on the other side while your body is still, getting back up to speed?
This one was very interesting because everybody listening, when Tracy and I really did that episode, I think neither of us thought that right now we would be where we are with Omicron, right? And so now we've got even more people all over the place, sicker and sicker, or they don't know that they are as sick as they are. Now we're seeing so many more people with the effects of the first COVID they had. Then they're also catching Omicron when they still never fully recover from the first. So when we talk about how do we protect ourselves, it is building up a strong immunity. The first step in that, I'm just going to go ahead and say, it's your own. Step one is your own gut health. People who have very poor gut health, sometimes it's like we are working against ourselves, because you're going to try to keep doing all these things that are helpful, but your gut is in such disarray that it can't even take in all of the things that we're trying to do to help you. So step one, if you have constant, digestion problems, if you have been on many bouts of antibiotics throughout a year or throughout multiple years, Those of you who have constant sinus problems, many of you are on a lot of medications because of other illnesses. Those things do weaken your gut health. Those of you who have done a lot of crash diets in the past, who drank a lot of teas and done all these different things that keep flushing out your intestines, your colon, you have lost a lot of good gut bacteria. So step one, let's get that fixed. Those are the things: the kombucha, the plain yogurt, the kimchi, sauerkraut, eating foods that are very pre and probiotic rich. Those are the things that will be very helpful. Many of you may actually need to take a pre and a probiotic supplement. And remember, understanding what those are. The probiotic is all those bacteria that you need, like those cultures. But the prebiotic is almost like, this is like, I'm coming to the party and I need something to help me at the party. The prebiotic is going to help it. It's going to help that probiotic work better. Okay. So that's number one, gut health. Number two, we talked about eating and movement. So first, in the eating portion, bringing that zinc up, right? That's the number one way to build your immunity. And that is really found through a lot of your animal proteins. So some of my vegans out there, avocados, pumpkin seeds, walnuts, all different type of nuts can do the job for you. Sweet potatoes, white potatoes, just really those basic food groups. They will be very helpful in helping you build that immunity back up, even bananas, berries. So eat a lot of those things, including fish. I say animal proteins, but sometimes people don't think we're talking about fish. Yes, that includes fish, folks. And then your vegetables, vegetables and fruits. You can spinach, kale, and then your fruits. And also including broccoli and cabbage. If you can eat those things, those will help you build that up as well, if you can eat those things. And then your fruits and vegetables, papaya, pomegranates, apples, load up, folks. It's not just the oranges, right? Everybody thinks, oh, it's just oranges for the vitamin C. No, there's so many other things. Kiwi, those pomegranates, they have much more vitamin C than an orange, but they also provide a lot more antioxidants that we need. So those are very simple ways that will help you. And then lastly, you got to get up off your butt. You got to move. We cannot just keep sitting. I had this conversation last night with my 7-week program as they're getting ready to graduate. And literally, we talked about the deceptive nature of movement. People feel like, oh, I work out like 6-7 days a week. That's great. And some people may think, oh, that's overkill. But the fact is, what did you do in those 6 or 7, workouts? And you got to remember, in a full week, think about how many hours in a week. What is it? 186, 185 hours in a week. And you really worked out, or you moved 6 hours of that. That's not a lot. Put that up, think about that. That's not a lot. And that's why it's so important that on top of your workout that you walk every single day. Get that movement in, plus your workout, so that you're constantly moving.
Move goals.
Yeah, you gotta move.
That speaks to those move goals that's inside of our Apple watches and phones and apps, and on top of my workout, I have a 600 calorie move goal. So right, and and initially when I remember Anitra was like, Tracy, just walk. And I was like, I come on the other side where I'm used to just like intense, and I'm like, walk, and it's interesting because now my job, I don't get to move as much as when I was training. When I was training, I never sat down. I mean, for 5-6 hours, I'm all over the gym. I'm walking with my clients. I'm picking up equipment. I'm moving equipment on top of my own workout. So I didn't realize how much that shifted once I changed roles and I was now more in a fixed position. Even though I get up and move on the hour, it's not the same as when I was 6 hours consistently moving across a very big gym. And if you guys ever been to the concourse, that thing is 3 levels high. It's not a small gym, and I was all over that place. So it was very interesting, that dynamic shift. And then when we added back in me walking on top of that, even if it's like 10-15 minutes, right? The goal is 30, but even if it's like, I make sure I do at least 10-15 minutes and my body shifted again, just from that very little subtle change. So it's interesting to watch, and you hear us keep saying this, guys. It's your health equation. So all these different shows that we had, we touched on different pieces of your health equation. So hopefully you have made the adjustments and you have put it together, because in the end, in the recap, right, in the very end of 2021, you can look back and go, oh, I made these changes, this happened. I made these changes, this happened. I made these changes, this happened. And now you can streamline your goals for 2022. You become even more efficient, right? Mm-hmm. So that being said, we're going to pivot to our last episode not our last episode, but it is our last episode. When Life Collides, and that was my 1 year anniversary of working with Arnitra. And I'm still working with Arnitra, guys. Like, it just shifted to another phase in our journey. Quite frankly, we're going to be joined at the hip for a while. I don't know if she knows that, but we're not going anywhere. Right, we're stuck. Well, I have to keep looking fabulous, and she's the reason why. Like, we have this running joke. Our equation is BTNC fueled, MFHC, built, and that's truly what it is. Is she gives me my fuel, and then I build it with the workout. So you stick with us, you'll get to where you gotta go. Mm-hmm. But one of the things that we talked about was eating right, but still being malnutrition. All right. And the other was emergency age signals, like what's happening to you, what check engine lights are starting to come on now at 45, right? That's my age and Nitra's age. So that's what I speak to. And then unseen markers that go unchecked, right? Those were like the 3 points that really stuck out during that whole discussion. So I'm gonna pivot to you now, Nitra, and talk about the big one, which is the alcohol ties into this too, was the eating right but still being malnutritioned.
It does. And it's crazy, everybody, because Tracy and I just talked about, some of this on last night, and probably we end up talking about this subject like weekly around people we know. And our circles are large, and we know so many individuals who are really, really not well. And it can feel like to their families that it came out of nowhere. But every time we know it didn't come out of nowhere. We ignore these signs. You ignore that you're not going to the bathroom every day. You ignore that maybe there's blood in your urine and you didn't tell anybody. You're ignoring that that stomach is like done every day. You're ignoring that you have a headache every single day. Like it's normal. It's not normal. You're ignoring that your legs are cramped every single day, right? And so these things are not normal, and everyone lets it go. But when we did this episode, it was all about, there's only one time in our lives where so many things happen all in one swoop. And it's usually between 40 and 50. And why did we say that 40 and 50 is because that's the age where some of you who had children a little bit younger, your kids are either in college, going to college, or graduating high school. Some of you have multiple children that are in elementary school plus middle school. You also are at the height of your career. It also is the age that the most body transition can happen if you don't do anything about it. And it's also the age at which many of you whose parents are still alive, you're starting to take care of your parents. And so that is the only time in your life where all these things will have happened for the first time in that decade, 40 to 50. Mm-hmm. And this is when we start to see the most health decline, because everyone is so focused on all these other things that are happening. And then you stop paying attention to your health. So it's so critical that in this age range, we don't forget that you have got to make the adjustment in 40 to 50 if you want to see 60, first of all, or if you don't want the damage done in 40 to 50 to be so bad that in your 60s, you have so many chronic ailments that we can't pull you back, right? You're too sick. So this is where that lifestyle comes into play. And you hear Tracy and I talk about it all the time. It's a lifestyle. And you have to be okay with saying to yourself, it's a lifestyle. Eating healthy is a lifestyle. It doesn't mean that you don't eat what you like. That's a negative. I think we eat what we like every day. But
I sure do.
Right? I think we eat what we like every day. But it's a lifestyle around making good choices, making healthy decisions, going to the doctor, getting things checked out, and also a serious, adequate for you exercise routine, right? We cannot do without. And so that comes with really making some mindset decisions about, are you going to keep letting it slide? Are you going to keep living in the past? Are you going to keep saying, shoulda, woulda, coulda? What are you going to do to go ahead and make that adjustment? And that last one that Tracy just talked about around alcohol use, this is also the decade that people start to drink again, almost like they were, because there's so much stress in this decade that you start to revert back to people in their 20s and the way that they drank then. But 40 and 50-year-old bodies, I'm sorry, they cannot handle that type of alcohol, and it will continue to wreak havoc. So I'm definitely not anti no alcohol. That's not what I'm saying. But you've got to be able to make the choice and decide, hey, this might not be for me. Maybe I really do need to pull this back in line so that I can help my body not fall apart.
Amen.
Right.
Key word, not help your body not fall apart. So another thing, Nitra, that we talked about on that, right, was we touched on the emergency aid signals and the unseen markers that go unchecked. And what are some unseen markers that people can kind of focus on?
Yeah. And again, that goes back to, do you even go to the doctor? Right? Are you even going there? So the unseen, again, is if you never go to sleep. Again, it's underrated that people don't pay attention to. Their sleep quality is awful. If you never have good sleep quality, and I think I use that analogy in the evening when we go to sleep, whenever you sleep, whenever that is for you, right? Everybody works a different shift, but whenever that is for you, that is your normal, what would be your nightly sleep pattern. That's the time to shut the machine down for maintenance, right? And when we don't put the machine down long enough, and I think that's an easy analogy, easy visual for people. If you work somewhere, at some point, machines got to come down for maintenance. And what happens when you don't put machines down long enough for maintenance? You cut the maintenance too short, or you never maintain the machine. It's going to break.
Or it crashes, right? Like an airplane.
It's going to break. Parts, you're not gonna be able to find the parts no more, right? You're like, ooh, that part is broken, but that part discontinued, right? We can't pull it back. The machine is done, right? Done. So think about it like that. We don't want that to be our bodies, where we waited too long and we didn't put the machine down on a regular basis, and then all of a sudden it's broken. We got parts that can't be fixed. And so that sleep, that is an unseen and totally underrated item that you can do a lot with quality sleep. Number 2, again, your gut health will tell us a lot, but I promise that one is such a secret taboo topic. People don't tell anybody that they're really having a lot of problems, that they end up with, they don't go to the bathroom 3-4 days in a row. It's always difficult to go. They have constant diarrhea. This one here is a huge sign that you are about to have problems if you don't do anything. I don't know if y'all watch Red Table Talk, but I do. And the episode that they did on Red Table Talk, where Jada Pinkett and Gammy Gam went to go get a colonoscopy done. Mm-hmm. They talked on that episode a lot with the nutritionist about their gut health, and she talked to them about all the different things that they could do. But that family has been plagued with gut problems for years, 20-something years, all of the family, including Will Smith. So it's amazing what you don't discuss and what you can let go. But again, that's a family that got a lot more resources than most, right? So think about an average person. You don't have a doctor showing up in your house. You don't have somebody coming to tell you, okay, I need you to do this. You can't just go out and go get something. So it's so important that you pay attention to anything to do with digestion and your gut so that you can keep you healthy. Because bad gut health will lead to cancer, flat out, all different kinds. It will lead to malnutrition, malabsorption, and that's a big problem right there, because that's going to lead to other problems. And it's also just going to lead to you not being well. You're just going to be constantly sick. So it's important that you really pay attention to that. And then also people who have the constant headaches. And nobody can see that, only you, or you ignore it. Or constantly your eyes are constantly burning, or they constantly have trouble staying open, and not because you're tired, but because there's such a pound going on in your head that you don't tell anybody. And those are the first signs of stroke, when you continue to let them just fester. Just keep going, constant headache, constant. You just keep letting it go. Those are the first signs of headache. And so I would tell you, like, pay attention to your body. Understand what's happening to it. Get to know yourself better than you did before.
Right. It's a whole new relationship, right? You and I, we joke about that from time to time. We talk about my retired hot girl sweatshirt, and you're like, it's just built differently now, Tracy. And that's you're still hot, right? It's built differently. And that's the same thing with our nutrition and our health and our workouts. And this is a great segue into our last point before we wrap up. We talked about building a health equation that matches the goal. And for me, it was, how do I feed my body the right way to get the right outcome? And a lot of people take on these fad diets and they make these decisions that are just not good for your 45-year-old body. And what you think you shouldn't eat, you should, and what you think you should eat, you shouldn't. And that was one of the things that we figured out in our recap session and for the whole year when we worked together, was really what works for my body and what doesn't. And I was surprised at some of the things that I would eat. Like, I love veggie burgers, but beans put me in a state of inflammation, right? And you were like, I love cashews and almonds and nuts, and those things put me in a state of inflammation. My stomach looked like I was 6 months pregnant. And I was sitting here like, what is going on? And so we were able to figure out things that worked and didn't work. And then the fun part started. It was when we had to figure out, okay, when you're going to lift really heavy weights, this is what you eat. And when you're going to lift lighter weights, this is what you eat. But the key was I couldn't stop lifting weights. You remember? We had to switch. I was too cardio heavy. And is at this stage in my life, I need to be weight bearing heavy. Now, everyone's different, but this is how we figure it out. You take the time, you invest in yourself by getting a nutrition coach and a trainer. It just so happened that I'm a trainer, so I could train myself, but I had to go get a nutrition coach because even with my knowledge of nutrition, it was not enough for where I am in my life and the outcome that I want. So those are the things that we have to think about, right, Nitra? So, you just mentioned you have your 7-week program. People are getting ready to graduate. Let's talk about how you can continue to provide help outside of our podcast, how you get to Nitra to get that support, to get the outcome that you want.
Yeah, so in my 7-week program, everyone, the next session starts on January 10th. And that is all about truly learning yourself. Is you understanding what foods work for you, what don't, understanding what is your normal cadence of eating, a little bit of journaling, understanding what happens when you do that. You may find that you completely undereat. You'll find that, there may be something that you over indexing on. Maybe you taking in too many calories through your liquids, but that course is all about how you're going to figure out what works for you to help you get the body of your dreams, right? To help you get the health in the body of your dreams in a way, number one, that's sustainable. Number two, in a way that is food you enjoy, but most importantly, in a way that suits you and not in a way that suits someone else. You all will hear me say all the time, just because something's good for you doesn't mean it's good for you. Right? Everybody's body functions so differently, and that's where you come in. As a coach, I can only go so far. I know all of the reasons why you would need certain things, But you have to be able to help say, you know what, when I eat that, I don't feel good. When I eat that, this makes me, this is what happens. So we can figure out how to pull that away from you long enough to get an inflammation off your body, long enough for to flatten out that belly so you can actually feel what a normal body feels like and you're not puffy, bloated, feeling uncomfortable. But on my website, btnc.life, you can find that 7-week program. It starts on January 10th. But of course, if you want to do one-on-one because you realize you need a lot more than that, that's my personals. You can message me straight from my website or straight from Instagram. But I will tell you, in 2022, you all see it. There are a lot of people who did not make 2021 for so many reasons, and you don't want to be that in 2022. But we've got a lot going on out here. COVID is not going to go away for a while. You see that they're saying maybe in a year, 6 months, you get it more under control. But that does not stop people from getting the virus. It does not stop people from being sick. It is not stopping people from having very compromised immune systems, compromised lungs. So you really do need to decide, oh, shoot, man, I better do this different. Right?
Yeah.
It's about having the best quality of life that you can. At least that's what I think it should be about. Maybe your mind is different. I don't know. It's about having the best quality of life. So do something different.
100%. Let's do something different for 2022, guys. And please check us out at Moving Forward Health on Instagram, our YouTube channel, BTNC Orlando at Moving Forward Health. There's really no excuse. You can get to us on Instagram, on YouTube. You can replay the shows. You can reach out to us directly. Yeah. Like, we're doing this so we can better help you make good decisions and how to get yourself healthy, if that's the goal, or to stay healthy, or to figure out how to manage your health. Like, this is a place of resource. We're here to help, right? And if you can spend money on alcohol and other bad food choices, and all the things that are taken away from your health, I don't want to hear it when it talks about investing in your health. Yeah. And you guys know I am pretty hardcore about this. And I am like this because I'm tired of seeing us die behind incompetent decision making, especially people who I've gone to school with. That we graduated from the same institute. So I know you got some fat on your head. I'm trying to figure out why you still making these decisions that don't make sense. And then you hide behind this whole, I had kids, I have a life, I don't have time. Well, I'll be there at your funeral talking about, dang, we could have did this different.
Yes.
I said it. That part.
Have those responsibilities. It doesn't matter what your family life looks like. It doesn't matter how many kids you have. It doesn't matter who's taking care of who. The fact is, I don't think Tracy or I know anyone who is not busy. Everybody's busy. Everybody has got responsibilities. But the fact is, you got to decide, do I want to take care of my health too? Or you're going to miss out on all these other things that you think are so important. So
facts, right? I'm not saying don't have fun, because y'all know back in the day, I was a party starter, finisher, continuer, and not what has changed. Mm-hmm. I just do things a little different, but inherently those things are still in me because that's who I am. And we're not saying be doom and gloom and boring. We're not saying that. We're saying just let's make the best decisions where we can. And of course, there are things that are out of our control. We're not talking about that either. We're talking about managing the items and checkpoints that are still in your control, so we can get a better desired outcome. And that being said, this brings us to an end here for our last show for 2021. It's unreal that I'm saying that. Like, I feel crazy. But this is definitely not the end. Check us out in 2022 as we continue these various conversations. And, at BTNC Orlando, at Moving Forward Healthcare, we are here to provide support for all of you. Nitra?
Thank you, everyone. And thank you, Tracy. Thank you, Bernard, for always streaming us, to find us in 2022. And as I always say, it's all good until it's not. So let's not let that be you. Let's walk into 2022 ready to take control of your health, your life, and have the most fun doing it. So until next year.
Love you guys.